Hello, thank you for watching. In this video, we're going to learn the dry brush technique. In order to be successful with this technique, you're going to need round, stiff bristle brushes. After you've mixed the paint on the palette, wipe the majority of the paint off the brush so that the brush is damp with paint, and you don't have to be as messy as me when you do it. Next, you're going to scrub the entire background with a relatively dry brush. This will create a thin layer over the underpainting. With the dry brush technique, you can brush the background and the table colors right over the edges of the circle. The paint should be thin enough for you to still be able to see the edges of the circle through the paint. You will be much more careful when you paint the inside edges of the sphere. Okay, now let's move on to painting the sphere. I'm going to paint the core shadow with a dark blue-gray. I'm going to use a smaller brush so that I can have more control over the paint. And I'm going to move the brush in the direction of the outlines that define the core shadow. When I get close to the edge of the sphere, I'm going to slow down so that I can make the edges sharply defined and I won't have blurry edges that blend right into the table and into the background. Before I move on to the terminator, I'll wait until the core shadow is dry. This might take a couple minutes. Add blue and white to the core shadow color to make the color of the terminator. I'm going to paint the terminator right over the edge of the core shadow. Even though the two colors won't mix on the canvas, the transparency of the terminator will create a smooth transition from the core shadow to the terminator. Wait for the terminator to dry before painting the halftones. I'm applying the halftone strokes in the direction of the halftone outline that I started with. I'm allowing the halftone strokes to overlap those of the terminator so that the two colors can seamlessly transition into each other. I'm going to let the halftones dry before I apply the center light. And I'm going to paint the center light directly over the halftones, subtly fading the center light strokes into the halftones. And I'm going to paint the center light strokes in the direction of the center light outline, so basically in a circular motion. Wait for the center light to dry, and then apply another layer of white in the very middle of the center light. Spread this color out so that it blends with the rest of the center light. Moving on to the reflected light. The reflected light should be slightly darker than the color of the table. I'm brushing the reflected light on so that it transitions smoothly into the core shadow, which should long be dry by now. When I'm finished with the reflected light, I'm going to wait for it to dry. Then I'm going to put another layer of dry brush strokes over the entire sphere. I'm going to darken the deepest part of the core shadow, and I'm going to smooth out all of my transitions by adding this other layer of paint. The more layers of paint that I add, the more 3D the sphere will look. You'll notice that even when you add multiple layers of paint with the dry brush technique, you'll still be able to see faint, wispy brush strokes. This is how dry brush paintings are supposed to look. They look a little bit fuzzy, and that's okay, because you can still make your paintings look very realistic with this style. I'm painting the cast shadow with a dark blue-gray. The edge between the cast shadow and the circle should be sharp. The outer edge of the cast shadow, however, should be blurry, so spread the paint out thinly on the outer edges of the cast shadow so that you can blur them out. I'm also applying the light table color to the edge of the cast shadow to blur it out. All right, that about sums it up. Thank you for watching.